322 or 322. My name is Jono Logan, and boy, the last 3 days have been just spectacular. So I don't know if you've heard, but Canada had an election. This is not going to be a partisan recap of it, because, I mean, anyone who listens to this probably knows my politics anyway, but like, it was a weird, a super exciting night, where because the advanced vote was in place, but it wasn't counted first. When the numbers were coming in for Nova Scotia, it looked like the Conservatives were going to have an amazing night because the advanced vote was overwhelmingly Liberal. And then like there was this giant turnaround, and then the Liberals started winning in Quebec, and then the Conservatives started winning in the 905 of Toronto, and the Liberals started winning some seats out west. And like by the end of it, we are left with a Liberal minority government, with a very strong opposition of 144 Conservative seats. So that's 169 Liberal, 144 Conservative, 23 Bloc Québécois, and 7 NDP and 1 Green. I feel terrible for the NDP. I in no way, shape, or form celebrate. I mean, 7 seats that's a hard result for them. But it's bizarre, because this is like the turnout of this election was huge. The vote share for both the Liberals and Conservatives was incredible. And yet it's a minority government. And even weirder, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, lost his seat. He lost his seat in an election where he led his party to dramatically increase their vote share and dramatically increase their seat count by like 20. So this election made not a lot of sense, but it was really, really exciting. It was wonderful to watch. I am so proud to be Canadian right now, just because the election went as you would expect an election to go. The turnout across the board, whether you're Liberal, Conservative, NDP, Bloc, it didn't matter. So many people voted in this election, which shows, I think, the sign of a healthy country. So I am very, very proud right now of how Canada handled this election. And I am very, very proud to introduce our guests right now. So today with us, we have Zach.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Matt.
Hi there.
Incidentally, we're all Canadian. Zach is dual citizen, but so yeah, you have an all Canadian podcast today. I feel that my preamble was very appropriate given that.
I refuse to come on the mic unless it's all Canadians, by the way. So that's why I'm here.
You're boycotting.
Yeah,
you're doing one of those boycotts that's caught on. Yes, that's by Canadian in podcasting. Well. We're going to be talking about 2 games right now. Neither one is Canadian. One is definitively not American, and the other is probably as American as you can get. But the first game we're going to be talking about is look, the last 2 weeks for video games, actually the last month for video games has been kind of remarkable. Like banger after banger game of the year contenders are just coming out nonstop. And this is before not E3. Who knows what's going to happen after that? So like last week we had Blueprints, and before that we had like lots of other games. But this week we have 2 very, very different RPGs. And the first one is Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which has the most insane title for a turn-based RPG since Metaphor ReFantasio. And similarly, it's getting rave reviews across the board. So I'll give you a little bit of background. Zach reviewed this. The review is up on the site if you want to check it out. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I'm just going to keep calling it Clair Obscur from this point going forward. It's the debut title from the French studio Sandfall Interactive, which was made up of some local, but a lot of Ubisoft devs and things like that. It is a classic turn-based RPG, but it does pull from real-time elements like real-time dodging, parrying. Zach's going to mention it a little bit later, but a little bit like a Mario RPG, actually. It's in Unreal Engine 5, just a stunning game. Really pulled a lot of influences from things like, Final Fantasy, obviously, a lot of turn-based RPGs. And this was just a celebration of the form. And from the sounds of it, it's not just a celebration, but it also might be the new standard for the form. It's, again, across the board love for this game, and across the board love for this game in terms of our scores, too. Like I'm looking graphics 98, sound 100, gameplay 99, control 98, story 99. We have a overall score of 99. So, Zach, you mentioned off the very beginning of your review that you experienced post-game blues after finishing the game. Why? Why did you have some post-game blues?
The game was just so good. I did not expect it to be this like just. I know from the preview that like it just hits you immediately. You know that it's potentially an all timer, but the fact that they just could just stick to landing like basically every single act, like every single scene.
Yeah, when I saw you give it a 99, Zek, I got really excited. I'm like, okay, like Zek is a pretty discerning reviewer, and I was gonna ask, is this the highest score that you've given a game at RPG Fan?
Yes, I did not think I would ever give a score like this in like any of my reviews because for Metaphor I also gave that a high score, but I think this could be game of the generation for me.
Wow.
And this is not an isolated opinion either. It seems to be across the board that this is just lighting everyone's fire, even folks that aren't like really into turn-based RPGs. When you were actually on the show a few months ago to talk about the preview, and I've been talking to you on and off about the game since then, and you were very, very excited about the preview. You loved it, and the fact that you played the preview and you adored it, and this game still just shocked you with how good it was, is a good sign of its quality.
Yeah, when I played the preview, I was thinking like this is great, right? But where's the catch, right? Because it's a very, I guess, specific slice of the game. Like it doesn't start at the beginning, for example, and it's like one, like two areas in the game, and then it just ends almost abruptly, right? So in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I know this is going to be great, but you know how with previews they want you to play kind of a specific part. So I wanted to see more to kind of form my opinion about the whole game.
That reminds me of Metaphor. Like people said the same things about the demo to Metaphor. Like this is great, but when you play the actual game, like that's one of the weaker spots of the game. Like they have even more in store for the full thing.
And I would expect you would expect a preview to put their like strongest foot forward to give you a microcosm of the experience of the game. And like you said, you are waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it sounded like not only did the other shoe not drop, it's in orbit right now. Let's give me a little bit about the game. So one of the things, this debuted last year, unexpected. We saw the preview. We were like, what the heck is this? Who is this developer, and how did they get these insane voice actors? And since then, we now, obviously the game's out, so we know everything about it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the premise of the game?
The website does a good job explaining it because it's very hard to explain, I guess. But basically, like a paintress paints a number each year, and then everyone of that age dies. It just counts down, starting from 100, and now it's down to 33, which means everyone age 33 or older is dead, right? So they basically need to kill the paintress very soon, or else no one's going to survive at this point.
I mean, thankfully it's a JRPG, so our heroes are definitely not old. They would never be over the age of 40.
Ew. Can I ask, like, how do they die? Is it like a death note, like they topple over with like a heart attack, or?
They basically disappear in a similar way to like Final Fantasy X, for example, with like the Pyroflies. They just disappear into ether.
And I imagine that was probably intentional and possibly even a homage to it, because this game does pull a lot from those classic RPGs. This seems like the classic case of a group of incredibly talented developers who played these games growing up and said, we want to do our own take on that. And a lot of times that can actually turn out to be relatively derivative of the original, or certainly in comparison to the original, not live up to its inspirations. But in this case, it looks like they've really built on their inspirations in a way that gave them something completely new.
Right. For example, after you finish the first area in the game, there's like an overworld, like Final Fantasy IX or any of the like PS1 Final Fantasy games, but it combines that with like more, I don't want to say like linear sections, but just like levels within each area that combines like the best elements of the more I guess modern RPGs.
The two comparisons that you make, and a lot of people have been making, could not be more different from each other, aside from they're both JRPGs, and that's Final Fantasy and the Mario RPGs like Paper Mario. And this game, like I said, it's developed its own unique identity, pulling from those inspirations. But if you had to say what does the game pull from both of those series and puts its own spin on it? If you had to like pick one element from both series that it was like, yep, we'll have that, what would it be?
So it has the aesthetics of a Final Fantasy game, for sure. Like it has the core elements of a classic game, like with the overworld, like with the. I don't want to say like with the story because that's a different topic we'll get to. But if Square Enix released this as like Final Fantasy 17, for example, people would believe that, right? It would be considered like a return to the roots, sort of, I guess. With Paper Mario, I guess when you play the game more, the action and timing elements become more important later on, similar to Paper Mario. But I think I mentioned in the preview that's like Paper Mario on steroids, where if your timing is on point, you're rewarded more. But if you fail any like inputs, then you could like the punishment is much greater, I guess.
Just like from the brief clips that I've seen, I'm trying not to watch anything about it, just because I know I'm gonna play this and love it probably. But it looks kind of like the battle overlay is Persona 5-ish, like with the camera and like I don't know, stylistically it looks like Persona 5. But I also read like somewhere that the developers were inspired by Sekiro for like the dodging and the parrying and like the timing of that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially with the super bosses. Like if you fail like a single input, that's just like everyone just dies, right? So you have to be completely perfect the entire time. And like that aspect is more like an action game than an RPG.
That's why they're super bosses.
If you fail a boss encounter, like does it, like most modern RPGs, like can you just pick up right at the beginning of that battle, or is it forgiving in that way?
You lose just like almost no progress. There's like a checkpoint like right before the boss, so like you don't lose anything.
If you look at it, you wouldn't think Mario RPG. There's going to be no one's going to be going, it's a me. Actually, it's very French, so they'd be like, "C'est moi." But the actually, let's pick up on that. This game is incredibly French, right?
Yes, I would say so.
which is very interesting, and I've seen this discourse online, which a lot of people are dismissing, saying one of the reasons why this game has gotten so popular is because it has a very different aesthetic from most JRPGs that are huge productions, such as Final Fantasy and things like that. There's no anime inspiration here. I think that's just a stupid point that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you look at the sales numbers and the popularity of these games. That being said, I have to admit, it's kind of nice seeing like a refreshingly different UI and character design that pulls from a very different culture than we see in a lot of these games.
I think similar to how like many great JRPGs are kind of true to themselves, right? This is a studio in France. This is what they're familiar with. I think it makes sense for them to kind of focus on what is, I guess, great about their culture, right? Rather than trying to be something else. So I support them for doing that.
Absolutely. It's what gives it authenticity.
It's got that je ne sais quoi, right?
There's a Canadian episode, so there will be French. We have to legally do it. Legally, we have to speak French in every episode where there's Canadians.
I think the only phrase I remember from elementary school is like, est-ce que je peux aller aux toilettes? Like,
that was the most useful phrase ever. That was a magic word that got me out of at least 10 to 15 minutes of French class every class.
Yeah. But this new studio that made Expedition 33 I heard that it's like a 50-person team, or like they're relatively small, but like the game looks beautiful. I was kind of curious like how long the development cycle was, just because I just reviewed another French game that looks considerably less beautiful than this one, so I was impressed by the visuals of it.
I heard I think the director won some competition at like Epic Games, and that's probably why he uses Unreal Engine 5, or maybe it's just a great engine for them, but I think this is one of the best implementations.
Yeah, they really did make incredible use of the engine, and certainly their design aesthetic lent itself incredibly well to the graphic style and what ended up on the screen. And incidentally, Matt, I wouldn't exactly call Zone or the Siberia games not pretty. I mean, for their time, they were stunners. And actually, they do have a slightly similar aesthetic when you kind of look at it, like that, well, European look, I guess you could say.
The foliage, yeah, like you can probably see it, like yeah, the fauna and the flora, like the way they look. Yeah, there's some similarities there.
I think one of the things I like most about this game, reading your review, is that it is a 20 to 30 hour experience rather than like 150. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth nearly killed me. It nearly killed me. But like this game, it seems like it's not just manageable. It seems like it's a perfect length for the story and the side quests that it's presenting you with.
It has some of the best pacing I've experienced in any video game. Like every single scene matters. The game does not waste your time at all. It's just like great from beginning to end.
Yeah, it turns out when you don't have a 150-hour game, it is a little bit easier to pace your story sequences.
I will say I liked Rebirth, but I mean,
I'm not slamming Rebirth. I'm just saying that there were some parts where that game could have used some trims.
There's 30 hours of chocobo racing in that one, and squatting, and other mini games. But I'm glad to hear that, just because like nowadays, like a short experience is kind of like a selling point, like a short, tight experience. Like it used to be, I think maybe arguably because of games like Oblivion, games were advertised for like a decade and a half as like 200 hours of content, but it's like I don't really want like 200 hours of subpar content. So I am happy they were selling the game at like a reduced price in the case of Expedition 33, and it's like it sounds all great. Like that's exactly what I want.
I was surprised by just how much story there was even in like a shorter game. It feels like there's like 100 hours of story in like a 30-hour game.
And the cast, right? Like I was looking at the cast and I was blown away. I'm like, you got Charlie Cox in there, and like Ben Starr from Final Fantasy 16, and Andy Serkis is in there apparently. Like, sounds great.
Yeah, the acting is just phenomenal. I mentioned in the review, I think Jennifer English from like Baldur's Gate, she voiced Mael in the game. I think that's one of the best performances I've seen.
I mean, first off, Matt, we'll get to damning Bethesda with faint praise or high praise in a few minutes. Blaming Bethesda for the current state of the gaming industry it's a full-time job, really. Let's move on to talking about the combat, because as much as the aesthetics of the game, the story, everything, it's really come together. It seems like the combat is what a lot of people are really getting excited about, because you described it to me when you were on the podcast last for the preview. I want you to lay it out to me again, because this does not play like a typical turn-based RPG.
Right. So there are standard like turn-based elements, and the customization is actually very detailed. And what's interesting is that compared to the preview, where I mentioned certain aspects of like the stats, they actually rebalance that in the final game, which like I completely support, because now you have like a scaling system with like the weapons. They scale kind of like in like a Souls game, and there's like the pictos will also influence your stats and just other
Those
factors.
are the accessories, right?
Right, yeah. And there's also the like action element, where every single time you use a skill, you have to kind of time your attacks so that you can just maximize your output. And for the more powerful attacks, sometimes if you don't use the right input, it just completely cancels your turn.
Oh wow.
So it's much more punishing in that aspect. It's like high risk, high reward.
So you can't just continuously spam like Y button to choose attack. You need to actually pay attention to what you're doing.
Right. So you have to learn the skills. It's not like that hard to do, but it's just another like aspect of the combat. And you also need to learn to fight, like how to parry certain attacks in order to get through the bosses.
Would you say that the timing is pretty unforgiving as well? Like you said that if you make a mistake, it's like the end, but Compared to a game like Sea of Stars, would you say that the like parry timing is very difficult, or how forgiving is that?
It depends on the fight, I think. So your moves generally are pretty lenient. Like it's pretty easy to get the timing down for them, and you're going to be using it so many times that you won't have any issues with that. But the fights, well, it depends on the difficulty you select, right? If you play it on story mode, the timing is more lenient, or like that's what it says, at least. If it also depends on the fight. Like if the early story bosses are pretty simple, but obviously the super bosses have very tight timings.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's the point of a super boss. I wonder how long it's going to take for someone to take the gameplay of this and put like the Mario Mario and Luigi soundtrack in the background, or actually the original, the do 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 that song. Speaking of music, one of the things that we've really been hearing a lot about this game is the soundtrack. It's apparently just phenomenal, like all time. The soundtrack is apparently as good as the game is, which is saying something. So can you tell me a little bit about the soundtrack?
Yeah, I mentioned in the review that's kind of a mix between like Nier and Xenoblade, but I mean, there's no great way to describe like the soundtrack of a game, but to someone who hasn't listened to it, that's how I would describe it personally. I think it just mixes the best elements from the genre in general. I think there's a strong focus on strings, I've noticed, and I've also noticed like just a crazy variety in battle themes. Because in many RPGs, you might have like a standard theme and then a few boss themes. But here, like even in the same area, you could find like 3 or 4 distinct and different battle themes in the exact same area that you will not like hear anywhere else.
That's so exciting. I mean, the soundtrack, if people don't know, is 8 hours long. It's over 8 hours, which is kind of becoming like the standard in RPGs nowadays because of games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake, and even Stellar Blade I think had like 10 hours of music, I believe, but it's a little bit much to handle for like a music reviewer, like like people like me or Patrick on the site, but or Geo, but yeah, it is fun to listen to. Maybe hard to write about though.
Yeah, I noticed just the sheer variety of music in the game, and you can actually collect some of them and just play it at camp, but they only had 31 songs like on release at camp, and I was I wish there were more. Maybe they'll add more later.
One of the amazing things about this is I think his name is Lorien Testard. He's the composer, and this is his very first video game soundtrack that he's ever worked on. He's apparently worked on it for the last 5 years. I don't think he's going to be hurting for work after this, based on the reception it's been getting. But like, I'm very excited to see what else this gentleman does in the future and what he decides to work on.
Just looking at Spotify, it's 154 tracks on the soundtrack. So that is a monster. Yeah, that
is a monster.
I'm glad it's like up now on like Spotify and YouTube, because when I was reviewing it, I wanted to listen to the music more, and my solution is to just go to that point in the game and just plug in my headset just to listen to it. So
before I ask you to, your final thoughts on the game, I just wanted to mention something that I found hysterically funny. When I gave you the preview, I'll play it, and I'm gonna have to play. We could only get a PC code, so you're gonna have to play it on your fiance's computer. And you did, and she was there. And afterwards, she's like, "You're going to be reviewing the full game, right?" And you're like, "I don't know." And then she was like, "You're going to be reviewing the full game, right?"
Yeah, I had to talk to you about it. I felt bad because I know, some of these games are very high in demand, and I'm like eternally grateful to you and RPG Fan for giving me these opportunities. So like I felt bad, but I had to mention that because she enjoyed the preview even more than I did. And in my opinion, it's like one of the best previews I played.
Yeah, it's not so much that I respect your abilities as a reviewer, it's just that I fear your fiance.
Fair enough.
Is she much of a gamer? Zach? Does she like play games herself, or?
Yes, she plays like a lot of different games. She's actually like she plays through this game as well while we were reviewing it. So I ended up, I mentioned that like we played through it like 3 or 4 times because like she wanted to play it herself as well.
That's fun.
I mean, that's a testament to just how damn good the game is. It's going to be a while until you play something I think you're going to love quite this much. I hope this isn't going to ruin the rest of the year for you.
It's I have to kind of reset my expectations for next game just to be fair to like all upcoming games. But I'll do my best.
Don't worry, I'll give you the worst possible game, and like your next review will just be terrible, and that'll reset everything for you.
You've given me such great like games that like if that happened, like I wouldn't even I wouldn't be mad about it at all.
Okay, well, get ready for some Steam shovelware. It's coming your way. So, Zach, thank you very much for playing this and playing through the preview. I can tell how much you loved it, and I have to admit it's been a while. There have been a lot of big games that have come out over the last while that have turned into little phenomenons, but and this is one of them. But it's been a while since I've heard anyone go on quite this much about a turn-based RPG. I mean, the last time was Metaphor ReFantasio, and even that wasn't this big.
Yeah, and I coincidentally I reviewed that as well, and I love that as well. I think it's a very different game to this one because it's it's much longer. It's like even though aesthetically, like the menu system and like there are certain things that are similar, but I think they're just very different RPGs.
It's also very European inspired.
Yeah, definitely.
But Europe by the way of Persona.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on now to a world that, frankly speaking, if this game didn't exist, I feel like, first off, the gaming landscape would look extremely different today. And many of the games that we talk about, including the one we just talked about, probably wouldn't even exist. And that is Elder Scrolls 4. So, I'm sure that everyone listening has, if you haven't played it, at least you know of it. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion originally launched on March 20th. Oh, God, 2006. It was on PC, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3 followed a little bit later. And it was Bethesda. Everyone knows how I feel about Bethesda, which depends on the game. But for Bethesda, they obviously released Elder Scrolls 1 through 3. Morrowind was 3, and that was their biggest hit thus far and really got people interested in the series. But then Oblivion just tipped it into the net, and this became a phenomenon. And specifically, it was the seamless open world. Like Bethesda there were other open worlds, but Bethesda was a pioneer in this kind of open world. And I don't know if anyone remembers back in the very early 2000s, but like chasing the open world was the white horse of video games. That was the I don't know if that analogy is true. White horse here might actually mean cocaine. Either way, it's addictive.
I think you're thinking of Skyrim, White Horse, the town name.
Of course. Yes, maybe that's where it came from. But everyone was chasing after the open world, and Oblivion arguably was the first game that actually nailed it, that gave people a seamless open world with activities strewn throughout it that would infinitely distract you from the main quest. The original game, universal acclaim across the board. It was like mid to high 90s, multiple games of the year. And since then, it has a huge legacy. It helped shape everything that came after it, including every single game that Bethesda ever released after it, including Elder Scrolls 5, Fallout 3, Fallout I guess they didn't develop New Vegas, Fallout 4, maybe 76. And people just love it. But Bethesda was really, really actually, I say Bethesda. Todd Howard is famously against the idea of remakes. But I guess somebody managed to convince him to do a remaster that is very close to a remake. And they went to Virtuous. They didn't do it in-house. They went to Virtuous. And this is the studio behind Dark Souls Remaster and Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition. This is a team that is exceptional at remasters and ports. And they took the game and they modernized the visuals. They added quite a few quality of life features, but they kept the core gameplay and arguably the jankiness that people love about this game completely intact. Visually, it's Unreal Engine 5, so it looks fantastic. It has ray tracing, improved lighting, high resolution textures. but it still uses the Game Bro engine for physics and the core mechanics. So yeah, you're like it's slapping not just a new coat of paint, like a new masterpiece on top of something that is a little dated. And as a result of that, people have really, really, really like it. People have loved this, and it's possibly one of the best remasters, the best received remasters that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I don't think Todd Howard is, averse to money, so it makes total sense that they like revisited this. I mean, considering all the anniversary editions they've done for Skyrim since like 2011.
Oh, he has no problem with re-releases. He loves those. Yeah. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised that at the end of the Elder Scrolls 4 reveal that he didn't announce that Skyrim is coming to the Switch too.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm sure that's coming in a couple of weeks at Naughty 3.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, like obviously there was open world before this, but this kind of caught the dragon. You know what I mean? Like this was a phenomenon. Like I was 11, I think, when the first one came out, 10 or 11. But people were still talking about this game and playing this game when I was in high school, like leading up to the release of Skyrim. Like everyone knew this game, everyone loved this game. And everyone had their own stories to tell about the game. Like, I don't know a single person that ever like talked about the main quest line or talked about the ending of the game, but everyone would talk about like the funny side quests or like, did you find like this armor in this cave? And like, yeah, if you go under the water in this thing, you can get a water breathing helmet and like blah, blah, blah. I think that's the joy of this game. I mean, 90% of this game, if not more than that, is side content. And arguably, no, I would say without argument that this is like the side content is better than the main content itself. Like you can run through.
Well, it is a Bethesda game.
Yeah, exactly. You can run through the main quest line without even leveling up. There's no need to level because the world scales with your level. You could probably beat the main quest in like 6-7 hours. But for example, the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, the Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, these alone would take you 7, if not more hours, each. So there's a ton of content in this game. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of experience with the original version of the game. And I imagine that nostalgia plays into enjoyment of this version of the game, the remaster, correct?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it has to.
And I mean, like, it is like mostly nostalgia for like the goofiness, the jank that you mentioned, which is absolutely here. But it's here in like equally funny measures as the original release, but like less disruptive measures. And what I mean by that is that, they've kind of quietly taken out a lot of game breaking bugs or things that would like soft lock the quest progression. So you're not likely to get stuck. NPCs aren't going to get like as stuck in the environment, like behind a door, for example. But yeah, it's a lot smoother. And yet the way that the NPCs move and the way that they talk, it's still like as funny as it used to be. And like, I think honestly, in my review, I said as much, like I want to both like give it points, but also like demerit it for that. It's just like, but it is the charm. Like I can't deny like that's part of what separates it from Skyrim, especially, which is a little more polished. And yeah, a little more polished.
That'll be the first and last time you ever hear someone describe Skyrim as polished.
Yeah, I said as much in my review. I'm like, for a Bethesda launch, like this is like the smoothest that they've ever launched a game. Like,
yeah, I think
by far.
I can't remember where, but I think I said it turns out I said it to you. I think it turns out the secret to developing a proper non-buggy Bethesda game is that you get someone else to develop it. And then I was like, New Vegas.
yeah.
And it doesn't hold.
Even though I like a lot of Bethesda games, I am like the first one to criticize them for like, they don't follow the same rules as the rest of the industry. And I think that the industry has suffered because of that, to be honest, of like, yeah, like ship a broken game, like we'll just patch it out. Like I remember buying
worse than that. It's a ship a broken game. The fans will patch it up.
Yeah. I remember playing New Vegas when it came out on my brand new PC laptop at the time. I was so excited, and it was like just broken with my specific graphics card, and I was so like crestfallen. Eventually I fell in love with that game, but like that kind of like put me off of Bethesda at a time that I was like, come the launch of Skyrim 11/11/11, that was such a huge event for people my age. I was like 15, I think, at the time. I remember like playing it with my friend. I hooked up a TV next to his TV in his apartment. we played on PS3 side by side on 2 different accounts. And I remember like taking a break and being like, I'm going to say it. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? This is like the best game ever. But I think that started with Oblivion. I mean, but people were, hip to the bugs of Oblivion at the time that it came out. Like people were aware how buggy it was, but like the ambition alone was enough to kind of forgive a lot of the technical flaws that it had and still has.
Yeah. And one of the tricks that Bethesda has and Todd Howard has is to create a massive amount of hype, and hopefully that hype lives up to it. Like I remember when they were leading up to Fallout 76, their marketing and their hype machine did a remarkable job. Like they flew out tons of content creators out to the actual hotel and where it's set in the game, and it's in Appalachia, and like they did an incredible job. And then of course the game came out, Starfield. But back then especially Skyrim and the Fallout 4 and like, well, I guess Fallout 3 too, like they captured lightning.
Yeah.
Well, incidentally, they captured lightning with this game too, specifically this remaster. And I think they did something kind of remarkable here, which is they made it a surprise despite the fact that we found out about it in 2022. So the story goes, there were some leaked Microsoft documents from the FTC lawsuit that was going on back then. And one of the things that was in it, I think it was 2023 when that happened. One of the things that was in it was like a list of unreleased games and currently in development. And one of them was Oblivion Remaster. And everyone lost their minds. But it was a leak, and it was not even a leak from Bethesda proper. It was from Microsoft, and everyone thought, okay, this might be right, but no one really trusted it. And then we didn't hear anything about it again. Like it was supposed to come out in 2022, and it didn't happen. What the heck? Okay, I guess it was made up. And then years and years go by, and then all of a sudden, about a week ago, it gets shadow dropped. There's a surprise live stream. Like there were some leaks beforehand where people are like, oh my God, this is happening. There are screenshots. This is happening. And then there was a live stream, and it was announced, and everyone was like, oh boy. And then it was shadow dropped, available the same day. And oh my God, Bethesda captured a little bit of that old Bethesda magic, I feel, with that.
Yeah. I have a theory to that. Like, I mean, we've been waiting for the Elder Scrolls 6 for like over a decade, I think, like 11 or 12 years at this point. And I think that since like Microsoft acquired Bethesda, they probably have had this like ready in the chamber, the Oblivion remake, but I think they were just holding on to it as like a show of goodwill towards the fans. Like, okay, if Starfield underperforms or if it disappoints people, like, for example, we can release Oblivion to patch things over. But I think if they announced Oblivion Remastered, like, hey, this is coming like in half a year, for example, right? I think people would just be angry of like, well, what about Elder Scrolls 6? Like, where's that gone, right? So I think the fact that they shadow dropped it was a very calculated move to like distract us from, the waning shadow of whatever Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be.
Well, I hate to say that it worked, but holy crap, did it ever work?
And it worked. I love it. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've been hearing is that people are kind of hoping that maybe through the remaster of Oblivion, that Bethesda manages to remember what made these earlier games so beloved, and that might be able to influence some of the development of 6. Like, okay, yeah, they love this. Maybe we should move a little bit further away from the Starfield model and back to what people loved about this game.
And that leads me to like the thing that kind of surprised me pleasantly. Like, Oblivion, I even have it on my like bio on the site. I've had it since I joined. Like, it's one of my favorite games just for the influence it had on me, the impact. But the content is actually like fun. The open world is fun. Like, I wrote a feature not too long ago in defense of linearity that was kind of rallying against open world, and how a lot of games have taken that to be just like, yeah, let's just give you a giant empty field to walk from point A to B, or like, and like that's like a poor excuse of an open world that just is bloating the game. And I was kind of worried like, oh, this is going to feel bloated now, I bet. But playing it, it's like, no, like I just enjoyed walking through it. And they give you the ability to fast travel to all the major cities right from the start, unlike Fallout, for example. And as someone like pretty intimately familiar with the original game, like that was like great. I mean, the original game had that ability too, but I there's no need to like wander in the wilderness just because there's a side quest for that. Like if you go to the city, any city, you're going to hear rumors, you're going to talk to people, you're going to activate a quest from a guild or something like that that will take you to like every inch of the map. So I found like I tried when I first exited like the rat dungeon and I got into the open world and I was wowed by the beauty. I started like walking and swimming around looking for stuff, and after my first like cave, I'm like, okay, like there's nothing really here in this cave because all the loot is like generated based on your level. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like go find a quest, and the quests themselves, like it's not fetch questy. Like I was really angered by some recent open world Final Fantasy side quests, like 15 and 16. I thought the quests were terrible. No hate beyond that, but these side quests were like fun. They were funny. They were like well written from a like storytelling or like contextual standpoint. Like, of course, the dialogue is like cheesy, but that's kind of funny. But like it was interesting. It's like, okay, like I'm not just saving an old lady's frying pan like The Witcher. I have a reason for, hunting down this runaway husband or something like that, right? There's always like intrigue to the quest.
I don't want to insult him, and I'm not, because I think he's a remarkable game designer. But it's interesting to me that the director, Todd Howard, was only an executive producer on Oblivion. He did not take the usual role that he takes. Can't help but wonder if that impacted the way the game came together.
I wonder. Like, I without looking it up, like, was he also the director of Skyrim, or did Todd?
He was the director of Skyrim.
Okay,
I think. I'm pretty sure.
Because if
One second,
yeah,
what Wikipedia is for. Well, sure. My memory is telling me one thing, but I'm just not sure. Yeah, he directed. Let's see. He was the project lead for Elder Scrolls 2. Oh, no, he's additional design for Elder Scrolls 2. He was project lead and original concept for Morrowind. Then he was executive producer for all of the Elder Scrolls 4 stuff. And then he became the game director for the first game he technically directed was Fallout 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he directed, obviously, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim, and then went on to Fallout 4. And Starfield was his last one.
Okay. Like if I were to compare, Oblivion with like the closest analog, which would be Skyrim, like I think the combat in Skyrim is definitely better. It's more refined, like the skill tree system and everything. But like the quest lines in Oblivion, which are like the bulk of the game, are far more interesting. Like for example, compare the Thieves Guild in Oblivion to that of Skyrim. The Skyrim one is like a fetch quest with like zero writing behind it. It's like, hey, I left my diamond in this guy's pocket. Go get it. And then like the amount of doors that you have to load and walk through to get that diamond, it's like fast travel. It's really just like monotonous and I don't know how droll, but like in Oblivion, like they are interesting. Like the stories of the Mages Guild, for example, is like pretty fascinating and like worthy of its own campaign. But the other like main thing that I think is Oblivion's greatest strength is like the joy. Like it is a joyful game, like far more joyful than Fallout, of course, but far more joyful even than Skyrim. And like I just enjoyed playing it moment to moment, and it made me laugh on purpose a lot, and by accident even more. It made me laugh, and I think the Virtuos and Bethesda are like they're aware of that, because I saw some videos of them like the dialogue that they did add, like they added a few more voice actors to the 8 voice actors that voiced hundreds of NPCs beforehand, and they kept in like the goofiness. Like they wanted to keep in the awkward NPCs meeting in the street and having the stilted conversations of like, hail, speak, I have nothing to say to you, good day. Yeah, like that kind of thing is like everywhere. And like I find myself taking so many screenshots of this game.
It was some good voice acting, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Hey, you're the hero of Kavach. But yeah, like I found myself like recording so much of it on the PS5 like share button. Like I would just take clip after clip because it made me laugh so much. But I've been talking a lot, but I was curious, like, Zach, have you played Oblivion, or like, are you like a Bethesda fan, or what are your thoughts on that?
I have only played Skyrim. Like I've played Fallout 3, New Vegas 4. I have not played Oblivion. You're selling me on that right now, and that means like I need to find more time. I wish there were more than 24 hours in a day.
Or at least you didn't have to sleep for like at least 8 of them.
Oh, I wish I could just like, wait, like stand and wait for 8 hours to,
Yeah, that would be the coolest mechanic in video games. In real life, if you could just like sit on a bench and be like, and wait 6 hours. I've actually not played Oblivion, but I have tried to play Skyrim. I love Fallout games, and I really like Bethesda's design chops. But every time I've tried Skyrim, I've bounced off it hard, and I've tried about 4 times. I've tried it vanilla, I've tried it fully tricked out modded, and I just can't get into it. I'm curious if Oblivion might be a different story for me.
I would think so, maybe. I mean, like, what about Skyrim is bouncing you off of it, do you think?
That's the weird thing. I don't know, because it has so many gameplay elements that I adore, like the discovery, the walking around the open world, and you see a map marker and you're like, ooh, what's that? I'm getting closer to it. And you get to it and you discover and it's a cool place, and you go down into it and you suddenly become a vampire. Like those are the things that I love about video games. But for some reason, I've never really been able to get into Skyrim. The first time I played it, I played through the opening, going, the dragon, going through the dungeon. And then I just was like, I'm not enjoying this, and stopped. And then a few years later, I said, okay, that's silly. Let's do it again. And I tried it again, and I got further in to the first big dragon fight and finished it. And I was like, I'm just not enjoying myself. Mm-hmm. And then I tried it again a few years ago and got a little bit further than that and was just like, I don't understand why this game is not clicking for me. But it never did. Never did for some reason.
I would say that Oblivion is more like, it has a lot more old school RPG sensibilities of like, they designed the game for you to break it with like your leveling. So for example, like, the more you run, like just like Skyrim, like the more you run, the higher your acrobatics or your athletics gets, right?
But so did they design the game to break it, or is it just a Bethesda game?
yeah. But like it shows so much more than in Skyrim. Like by level, let's say 60 athletics, and like if you put some like when you level up your overall player level, you can put virtue points into your different attributes like strength, speed, endurance, intelligence. If you beef that up, you will be running like so fast by like level 60 of like athletics. You are sprinting across the map. When you jump, you like launch yourself. Like it's broken in that way, but in a way that like fulfills the power fantasy that a lot of Bethesda games kind of, offer the player. And this one, like by far feels the most like powerful. Like there are issues with like the vanilla Oblivion had like problems with the enemy scaling, which have been mostly solved in this game. Like every time you level up, like you're not limited by your major skills to level you up. You have 21 skills originally, and now you choose 7 of them to be major skills. In the 2006 Oblivion, you could only level up your player level by leveling those major skills. Everything else was just like gravy on top. Now you can level up, like the major skills make you level up faster, but you can level up anything. And once you sleep in your bed and level up your player level, you can again assign 12 points or so into your overall statistics, which means in the original Oblivion, you could accidentally lock yourself into like, okay, I have a very charismatic character that can't like fight a mud crab, a mud crab will pinch me to death. And I can't get myself out of this, right? I've kind of locked myself into being screwed over by the world, and I have to lower the difficulty to overcome that. But in this one, you can very easily course correct like any how can I say, like improper player leveling, right? So yeah, and also like the other benefit I think of every Elder Scrolls game is, a lot of people, they say, oh, I restarted Skyrim, I have a new character and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I'm always shocked by that, because the whole point of these games is that you don't choose a class, you become a master of everything. And that's usually by doing like the guild quests of like the Thieves Guild, you get good at sneaking and lockpicking. The Mages Guild, you get good at the various schools of magic. By the end of the game, like you are a superhero in every regard, and you don't have to like make a rogue character or a warrior character. You can do everything. And I think like that's the fun of the game is there's no grinding. There's no grinding in terms of killing enemies like in Fallout. The grind is like doing the thing that you want to get better at. So like you want to get better acrobatics, you're going to be bunny hopping everywhere you go, right? If you want to get good at destruction magic, you're just going to be shooting fireballs into the sky as you walk. And in that way, it was very engaging with me. Like at all moments, I was just like thinking about how can I make myself better in a way that was more creative than a lot of RPGs today, I think.
So I had to play through Skyrim 3 times for a very different reason. So my first playthrough, I mean, I played through it on PS3. It was basically like vanilla PS3, and there's a memory leak. And I played through a game. I was doing like a quest line, like near the Thieves Guild, and the game just crashed, and it crashed so hard that like my entire hard drive corrupted. So I lost the save. And then in my second playthrough, there was a quest line that bugged to the point where I couldn't do it at all, because some NPC that's supposed to continue it just randomly died from some dragon that like I didn't even see.
Yeah. I feel your pain, Zach. Like I was a PS3 and 4 player, like PS3 for all the golden age of Bethesda, and I had all the technical issues. I said in my review too, like the only reason I put down Oblivion, and this is true for Fallout, is it just would crash and I couldn't play it anymore. The problem with Fallout especially, and I think Oblivion is the same way in Skyrim, is if you look at your save file, the data, it just gets bigger and bigger because they are keeping everything. Like in Oblivion, I returned to an early quest area and I'm like, oh, that monk that got murdered is still lying in the middle of the street. No one's like moved his body. And like everything that you touch, everything you interact with is kind of remembered by the game. And that led to like in Fallout, for example, Fallout 3, I played it so long and did so much in it that the game would just crash because it was too unwieldy to handle like the data, right? And I would too. I was like heartbroken. I'm like, I want to love this game, but like you're not letting me play it, and it would crash in the same spot. And I would, on the PS3, like that's like 10 minutes of loading to get back to where you were. I had Oblivion, this remaster, crash on me twice, I think, maybe 3 times, or 3 times, like in all the hours I put in it since starting it. And it auto saves very often. Like it has 5 auto save files that are continually updating with every like door you go through, every time you wait, for example. And just being the PS5, it launches like immediately. So like it crashed and I was like, oh, come on. Like I got really angry and I was back exactly where I was within 50 seconds. You know what I mean? Like within a very short time. So, I mean, I'm not going to say like, yay, like the crashing is better, but it shouldn't crash at all, but like it's a lot less frustrating, I think, from a player standpoint.
I'm glad we have the suitable hardware to actually play these like 10 or 20-year-old games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another reason why Bethesda games have become infinitely more playable over the last few years is mods. I alluded to it earlier in this podcast. I was joking about it, like how, you release a broken game and the fans will fix it. Well, that's not a joke. That's true. And a good example of that is I just started a new playthrough of New Vegas. And I was like, I'm going to mod it. And I looked into it and it was like, I played it before fully modded, but there's a lot of new mods out. And like the game runs flawlessly now, providing you download the fan mods and the fan fixes and everything. It works beautifully. And that's something that this game, this version, this remaster actually has an interesting little bit. Officially, Bethesda says there is no official mod support. However, a lot of folks have discovered that because it's literally built on top of the Game Bro engine, this is literally a new coat of paint. Like, yeah, it's Unreal 5, but it's underneath it's still the same engine. So apparently mods still work. I guess we'll see what happens in the next couple of months and what modders do with it. I sincerely doubt that Bethesda is going to be offering any mod support because it seems like they've foolishly, in my opinion, gotten away from that in recent years. But yeah, I mean, I hope that this game gets mod support. I think that's the reason why these games are still so beloved and have so much replay value year after year. It's because fans are still creating content for them.
Yeah, I mean, if I can have Macho Man Randy Savage in my Oblivion on PS5, that would be a, a dream come true. You know, I would really, I would love that.
You are stretching your acting muscles today, Matt. You are.
I'm if anyone's listening, I'm looking for a voice acting job. Okay, Elder Scrolls 6. Okay, I'll be the new Nord voice. Hey.
Well, speaking of Elder Scrolls 6, we're going to move on in a second, but I just wanted to mention something I mentioned earlier in this when I was talking about the background. The existence of Oblivion's remaster got leaked in the Microsoft leak year in 2023. I'm looking at it now. It's been years since I've seen this. But one of the things that got leaked was their release schedule, and financial year 2022, Oblivion Remaster, and Indiana Jones game. So I think these timelines have gotten pushed back just a little bit, considering that the first game under financial year 2024 is Elder Scrolls 6. Because we didn't get Elder Scrolls 6 last year, did we?
I missed that one. Yeah. Oh,
last year was a pretty stressful year. I don't remember it. Maybe it got released in the same day as the election. Everyone missed it. But one of the things I'm super excited about is coming in 2024 is a Fallout 3 remaster. And if I had to put money on it, I would say that is probably what Virtuous is working on right now. Because it is let's put it this way, if Oblivion Remastered was supposed to come out in 2022 and came out in 2025, we'll probably be looking at Fallout 3 Remaster in 2027. In a perfect world, they would have it out before the next season of Fallout, the Fallout TV show. But we'll see. We will totally see. Well, Matt, thank you very much for playing this. And I don't really need to thank you. You love this game. And Zach, you love that. You don't have to thank either of you for playing these games, but I do anyway, because you've given me so much of your time and the site so much of your time and effort and talent to review and expertly review these games. So thank you very, very much for doing so.
Fine, I'll play the video game that I love.
Yeah, I must.
I was like, you know, when it shadow dropped, I was like, it was like the middle of the night for me in Japan, and I was like, please let me play this game. Please let me play this game. You know, so thank you for letting me play this game.
Oh, absolutely. Let's move on to the discussion question. We're just going to do a real quick one here. It seems that video game movies have recently replaced the comic book movie as the big hit maker for studios nowadays. So we've gotten massive commercial successes like Minecraft, although it was critically panned. And we've also gotten critical and commercial box office failures such as Borderlands. But we've also got like the Super Mario Brothers movie and things like that. And some news that came out, right before it was released, is Clair Obscur now has a movie deal. So they're working on a movie version of it. It doesn't look like there's going to be any stopping the video game movie. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, if you could pick any video game property that doesn't currently have a movie in development, what would it be?
So I guess I'll start. I'm going to say Legend of Zelda, and I will not watch it.
It's coming. Whether or not we want it, it's coming.
But why does it have to be live action? Like, come on.
I agree. I wish they went the animation route. It's just better suited to it, in my opinion.
If I could have like a pipe dream movie that will never happen, I would say a Metroid movie, specifically animated or directed by what's his name, like Gendy Tartakovsky, the guy that did like the Clone Wars and Samurai Jack. I think like a very quiet Samus in a like anime kind of style action movie, that would be so cool. But that will never happen. That
would be really, really cool. And I know this would be a retread for him for a number of reasons, but in a perfect world, do a Metroid movie and get Ridley Scott to direct it. Because, I mean, for God's sake.
Yeah.
They named one of the characters in Metroid after him. In my mind, I'm trying to think. There are so many games that would make fantastic movies with like just amazing worlds that have not yet been made into films or TV shows too, like, you know, Fallout and things like that have also become. Fallout actually would have been mine if it wasn't released. I'm going to say Deus Ex. I think that world, especially right now, has a lot of interesting features to it that would resonate with AI and the idea of human augmentation. I think that could really speak to our times, and they would be able to do amazing things. It's just an amazing world and some great storytelling. I think that would make a pretty darn good movie.
Yeah, totally. Or like System Shock.
Yeah, that's something I would actually watch.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, I think it would be great. I would hope it would be great. There's a chance to be a disaster. It's going to be a video game movie, and some of them don't, or some of them aren't very good.
That's the thing. Like, there's so many where I'm like, oh, like I would love to see like a Halo movie or something. And I'm like, oh wait, they're making a Halo TV show that no one cares about. Like they are kind of like oversaturating adaptations, and like it's very hit or miss. It's like 1/3, 1/4 of them are popular. But yeah,
I would love if they adapted Yakuza.
Oh, they are, aren't they?
I refuse to acknowledge that.
sorry, I didn't play along.
It's the Yakuza adaptation that has absolutely no sense of humor about it whatsoever.
Oh my god.
They just played it dead serious, completely serious, and I'm like, did you play the game? Do you know what people love about this game? I don't think you know what people love about this game. You know what would be a great adaptation, and I understand that there have been adaptations of this before. Baldur's Gate. And I realize it's Dungeons and Dragons. There have been some Dungeons and Dragons movie, including a pretty good Chris Pine movie that happened a few years ago. But specifically Baldur's Gate. It has the name, it has the storytelling, it's massive right now. They could really do something with that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's never been more popular, but
yeah, with my fingers in quotations. And then there are some video games that I hope are never made into movies. Like, I don't think that Dark Souls or Elden Ring should be made into movies, because those are very dependent on the mechanics and the style of game. And I don't know if that would translate. Or like games that, like, why even bother would be like Alan Wake, or pretty much anything from Remedy. I mean, why bother? It's basically a movie already.
Or Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. Like, those are inspired by Hollywood already.
Exactly. And in many cases, they're parodies of that style. So I don't think they'd work. Not that that's going to stop them anytime soon. But yeah, there are so many games. And honestly, this trend has become so popular right now. I am almost positive that we will continue to see all of these games that we were talking about and more made into films. Well, folks, again, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to wrap this up now. If you're looking for a way to support us here at RPG Fan, we've opened up a store. You can find it at www.rpgfan.com/shop. You can also find our collaboration with Hyperplay RPG on there, the RPG Fan Review Card Collection, which is a collection of nearly 300 of our review cards, as you can see on Instagram and other social media channels. Another way you can support us is to check out our past episodes of Random Encounter. Like I mentioned last week, we were talking about a game that took over the internet for a period of time, Blueprints, and also the remaster of the Lunar series. So Silver Star Story and Eternal Blue, and they turned out wonderfully. We also have Retro Encounter, which is our show about all things retro. And this week, Zach got yet another chance to chat about one of his favorite series, Suikoden. Zach's been eating real good the last year. Like, he's been getting remasters left, right, and center of all of his favorite games. So yeah, that is him and a bunch of panelists talking about the Suikoden games. We also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPG Fans' music podcast. Our last episode focused on the very first music that you hear when you boot up an RPG, the title screen music. So give that a listen and enjoy some of the sense memory that you get when you hear these songs, and it brings you back to the very first time you ever heard them. If you'd like to get in contact with us here at Random, you can fire me off a message at podcast@rpgfan.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for future episode themes or anything like that, fire me off a message. If you'd like to send me an email directly, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com. You can also find me at Blue Sky at jonologan.bluesky.social. I'm not the only person on here with a social media presence. Zach, where can we find you online?
You can just find me on Discord. It's tentative user.
Cool. And Matt?
Yeah, you can read my fiction writing at mattwardellwrites.wordpress.com. If you like science fiction, I've got some short stories up there and on Amazon.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Give those a look. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends to help us get the word out there. Rate us on iTunes, your other podcast player of choice. And Zach, Matt, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
I've got nothing more to say to you. Thank you.
Oh God, yes. And if anyone's looking for a voice actor, Matt is fully available.
Hail.
Yes. Can you give us a let me take that again?
Hail.
Yeah. Okay. And everyone out there listening, whatever you're playing, have fun.